Joel Embiid is the best basketball player on the planet, and not enough people are talking about it. The Sixers superstar is coming off the season in which he was officially crowned the MVP of the NBA and has got better in every single aspect of his game. I'm going to begin by diving in, talking a little bit about the numbers, some of the areas where Embiid is specifically shining, and why he still deserves more recognition than is the case on a national standpoint. So I'm going to kick things off with this little screenshot here. Just take a look at these bullet points. Joel Embiid this season averaging 35, 12, and 6, first in the league in points per game, first in 50 points per game. He's tied with Giannis with that. They each have 2 on the season. First in 40-point games, first in 30-point games, first in 35, 10, and 5 games, the most since Wilt Chamberlain. More points than minutes on the season, and is averaging more points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, steals per game, and blocks per game than his MVP season last year. Now, to start off with just how absurd all of those things are, I do want to dive into some more of the specifics. And to begin by the improvement from last year's MVP season. We know how things have gone with the war between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic for the best player in the world. You can throw Giannis in the conversation as well. This recent era of NBA basketball, while there's obviously still the storylines of the LeBron James, these other superstars that are around the NBA as well, the best player has been tossed around between those three for several years now. It's between Giannis, it's between Jokic, it's between Joel Embiid, and right now it is Joel Embiid's moment. So to speak on why that specifically is, I do want to talk about these statistical improvements. So let's take a look at kind of his progression from a year-by-year standpoint. Leading the NBA in scoring this season for the third consecutive year, he went from averaging 33.1 points per game last year to 35.1 points per game this year. A 2-point per game leap so far on the season is ridiculously impressive stuff, especially when you consider the efficiency numbers and everything else that he does do. Look at the other leaps from rebounding from 10.2 to 11.8 this season, and what particularly stands out to me is going from 1.7 offensive rebounds to 2.9 offensive rebounds. He's also playmaking at a higher level than he has at any point in his career, averaging 5.9 assists per game. His steals per game at 1.1 and blocks at 1.9. That is the highest since the 2018-19 year for Joel. And to just look at kind of the efficiency numbers, still not shooting the ball well from 33.3 points per percentage there, but 54.1% from the field and 89.3% at the free throw line. I know there's plenty of talk about the free throw conversation, a free throw merchant. I see all the comments, all those things. And for starters, he's going to be up there in the league leaders for free throws because he is a big man. He is one of the most frequent shooters across the entire NBA. And you know what? He gets fouled. And the only reason that it is an issue is because Joel Embiid makes his free throws. That if you look at the leaders in attempts this season, that would be Giannis Antetokounmpo. But Giannis is shooting below 70% at the free throw stripe, while Joel Embiid is connecting on about 90% of his. And while you can hate it, while you can be frustrated with how visually pleasing it is or watching him draw fouls, you cannot deny that it is efficient offense. That shot at the free throw line is one of the reasons why he is so productive. And guess what? Every scorer does this. That look at Luka Doncic. Look at his free throw numbers, the way he gets slimed. Look at James Harden back in the prime James Harden days. That was much more egregious than what we're seeing from Joel right now, but that's still the theme continues that's efficient offense. He's getting the line. That is a good shot for his team. But just to talk a little bit more specifically about Joel Embiid, it is not just these raw numbers that are indicating how good he is. I mean, there are things like him having 35.1 points per game, which is the most by a center since Wilt Chamberlain. He currently has the active Sixers franchise record for most consecutive 30 and 10-point games. He's up to 12 straight on this one, which snapped Wilt Chamberlain's record for that. And who knows how much longer this will go on for Joel. And beyond that, I did want to pull up this number here, the player efficiency rating on the season. That Joel Embiid with a 35.03 PER, that is the highest in NBA history, by far the best player in the league right now. And look at right behind it would be Nikola Jokic during that 21-22 season where he recorded a 32.85 PER. Joel Embiid more than beating that at this point in time. So it does point to the advanced analytics, not just these raw numbers. And I know during the Jokic versus Embiid debates, those advanced analytics were thrown in Embiid's face so often that a lot of the pro Jokic guys, and by the way, I don't want to make this a fully Embiid versus Jokic debate because they are both incredible players that are quite fun to watch and two of the league's most elite talents overall. But to talk about the advanced analytics, it is a little funny to me that Embiid is now running away with those conversations as well. And one of the reasons that I had an issue with using that as such a point to stand on when making these MVP debates, because there's plenty that goes into these conversations. Team success, individual success, how much you're asked to do on your specific team on an offensive and defensive side of the ball, how much it matters your impact on both sides of the ball versus a guy who's more elite in one category, not as good in the other. All these things matter and matter differently to different people. But one of the reasons that it was funny to me that that was such a crutch for the Nikola Jokic argument is because they statistically favor his style of play. That one of the reasons I think it is a flawed system is a lot of the advanced analytics are positional dependent. And what I mean by that is Nikola Jokic, who's a triple-double threat on a night-to-night basis, his assists were way greater because he's a center, because he's unexpected to pass. If you were to calculate his same exact numbers as a guard, it comes out a little differently. And obviously every analytic is different, that each one has a little different formula to go into it. But a lot of it favors Jokic because he's a big man doing things that big men typically aren't expected to, versus Joel, who has a more traditional style of play. He is a scorer. He is a rebounder. He is a paint protector. He's more of what you think of the archetype as a big man, while Jokic is kind of a guard in a big man's body. But for Embiid specifically, I did just want to touch on his month of December, which is one of the most impressive months of basketball of any player in NBA history. Just in December this year, he's averaging 41.4 points per game, 12.9 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 1.9 blocks, 1.4 steals, shooting 61.5% from the field, 37.5% from three, and 92.5% at the free throw line. That truly is superhuman level stuff by Joel, and one of the most impressive individual months of basketball that we've seen in the league's history. And while I do want to speak on how it is being disrespected and not talked about enough, because there is a ton of pushback, last night specifically was a game that changed that. Joel Embiid dropping 51 points against the Timberwolves, the best defense in the NBA, the number one seed in the Western Conference, is far different than him beating up on the Pistons or the Wizards, which I know is often critiqued Embiid because the pathway is has been easier to this point. And by the way, do not throw that at Joel Embiid. He is not the guy that makes the schedule, and unlike other sports, in the NBA, every single team plays every single team. So these guys will get their reps in against the Pistons and the Wizards as well. That Giannis will have his opportunity to stat pad, and he has taken it against the Pacers. Nikola Jokic will have his opportunity to stat pad, and he will take it when the time is right. There is nothing wrong with that. That is the way the game plays, and Embiid will certainly have tougher matchups ahead as well. There's still a lot of basketball left to be played this season, but at this point in time, there should be zero doubts that Joel Embiid is the MVP of the league. He's been the best player. And it does seem like people are starting to begin taking notice. The morning after the 51-point performance against the Timberwolves, we get the first drop from the Tim Bontemp straw poll across ESPN Media, a bunch of the voters for the MVP. And here's what we have for this specifically. Pulling this up here, Embiid with a comfortable lead in first with 63 first-place votes, 27 second-place votes, 3 third, and 4 in fourth. Right behind him is Jokic, who has 21 first-place votes. Giannis right behind. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, and Tyrese Halliburton, each in the conversation as well. But it was good to see. And I don't know this for a fact, but my guess would be that a lot of these votes came in before last night's game. That I doubt that this whole article and voting and counts was calculated after 2 a.m. last night or 12 a.m. last night, whenever that game officially wrapped up. I doubt Tim Bontemps calculated things, got votes in there. So my guess would be that lead has gone even larger to this point. And to speak on the odds standpoint, because we do live in a world where sports gambling is so connected to sports as a whole, that Joel Embiid has taken a significant lead in the MVP race as well. So look at these odds here, as we can see, about plus 175, plus 200, and Jokic right behind him around plus 300. Now, the reason that I think this is particularly interesting is because there was a rapid shift in this following last night's game. That before the matchup against the Timberwolves, Jokic was the betting favorite to win MVP, Embiid trailing him. That flip-flopped after that game specifically and by a significant margin. That Embiid on DraftKings specifically was plus 350 before the game. Now he's plus 180. Jokic went from plus 250 to plus 275. So he did drop back, Embiid with a notable lead. That was the type of statement that changed the minds of people, and the odds are reflecting that as well. Now, once again, there is plenty of basketball still to be played. That there is plenty of details and games to be played to decide things to this point. But I love everything about what I've seen from Joel. down to his mentality, down to the team success that is correlated to this, which is incredibly important as a whole, that the Sixers find themselves right in the mix for one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and I don't expect that to change. And even better is they still have this ammunition to improve this team in whatever way they see fit, and based on the way that he is playing, based on the way that Tyrese Maxey is playing, and based on some of the weaknesses that we are seeing in the East, the Sixers have to go for it this year. And Joel Embiid is all about it. And he did have this quote, which I wanted to especially highlight. He sat down with Tim Bontemps, that this article and this interview kind of coming out in pieces by pieces as they release things all the way through Christmas is the plan for that. But I did want to hammer home this quote that he said in the interview with Bontemps here. And he said, Embiid says, quote, "My goal is to be the best, and I understand that to be the best, you have to have something to show. That means championships. That means MVPs. I want it all, and I'm not shy about it. Anything that I can get my hands on, I want it." That is exactly how it should be. That there should not be this nonsense, this politicking, this I don't care about this, whoever wins it, whoever's the right guy. These guys are hyper-competitive athletes that should want to win. They should have these goals and desires to get accolades. That when everything is said and done, when we reflect on the end of these guys' careers, that they should want the highest accolades connected to their name as possible. Legacy does mean something in the NBA. That is the reason that a lot of these guys play the game, that you should want to be remembered as the best. And that applies to everything that you do. This is not just to the NBA, that you should want to be remembered as the best employee at your job. You should want to be remembered as making the greatest impact that you could have felt on any given situation. So I love that Joel Embiid recognized this. I don't want the fake nice guy quotes to come out this year of, I don't care, whoever wins it, whatever. I understand the frustration that dated back to Embiid getting picked over in the 2 seasons with Jokic, who certainly had a case for MVP himself, but I do want to see him own it. I want to see him want it, and he's showing that beyond just words with his play, with what he's doing on the court, with the way that he is elevating the Sixers team to a true championship contender, with the real realization that if you take Embiid off this team, this Sixers team is maybe not even a playoff team. That is what I do think the difference is. When you talk about value, you want to compare him to Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks, you take Giannis off that team, this Bucks team is still probably a top 5 team in the East. That they have Damian Lillard, they have Brook Lopez, they have Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. They have some guys there that can carry a roster. You take Joel Embiid off this Sixers team, what is this team doing? Not much. That Tyrese Maxey is great, but Tobias Harris is your number 2 option. DeAnthony Melton is your number 3. Kelly Oubre on this roster. We've seen what it looks like when Kelly Oubre gets his freedom to run a team how he sees fit. That is a testament to Embiid to how much he changes the game. And you can see it on a night-to-night basis. On the games in which Joel has missed, and there has not been much so far this year, it is night and day what this team looks like. So give Joel Embiid his flowers. Recognize him for elevating this roster, for carrying a team, and for being the best player in the world. That when Joel Embiid is locked in and playing his best ball, which he has for just about every game this season, there is no player that can touch him. Not Nikola Jokic, not Giannis, not Luka Doncic, not LeBron James, that when Joel Embiid is playing his best, his two-way impact, he's the best player in the world. Yes, there's a little more up and down than I would say is the case with some of the other stars, that I would say a bad Embiid game is worse than a bad Jokic game or a bad Giannis game or things like that, that I think Embiid has more top and bottom compared to some of these other guys. But when he's playing at his peak, I don't think anyone in this world can reach it. I don't think any other basketball player can play at that same level, and that is a testament to Joel Embiid. So I am glad that things are turning around, that he is getting this MVP recognition, but this must maintain for the season. We are not even at the halfway point. We are just approaching Christmas. There are sure to be a ton of significant matchups that people have circulated on their calendars, and we will find out about at that point. But for now, just don't take for granted how special this guy is. Recognize the greatness that is in front of us and appreciate it as you flip it on a night-to-night basis. Thank you guys for tuning in this video. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and let me know your comments about your vibe check on Embiid. I know it's been a little bit of a rockier up and down process in Sixers history and Sixers fandom than is the case for a lot of superstars around the NBA. So I do want to hear your thoughts on Embiid and what this level of play really means to you guys. Once again, thanks for watching. I'll be back with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.